There's a crisis brewing, right beneath the waves. It's a silent change, but its consequences, well, they reach every single corner of our globe. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the very real dangers of our warming oceans.
And for this breakdown, we're pulling directly from some fantastic research and analysis done by the Pierce Sustainability Consulting Group. They've really taken this incredibly complex issue and broken it down into its most critical parts.
Think of it this way. Our oceans have a fever. And yeah, it's a powerful metaphor, but it's also startlingly accurate. So what exactly are the symptoms of this global sickness?
Well, the fever really starts right here. You see, our oceans basically act like the planet's giant heat sink. They soak up a huge amount of the excess heat that gets trapped by greenhouse gases. But here's the thing, there's a limit. There's only so much they can take, and we are definitely starting to see the consequences of hitting that limit.
So first up, let's look at the immediate and honestly devastating impact this has on life itself. And look, this isn't just about the water getting a little bit warmer. We're talking about the complete unraveling of entire ecosystems.
Okay, one of the most visible symptoms, coral bleaching. Now, bleaching isn't the coral dying, at least not yet. It's the coral under extreme stress. It's literally kicking out the tiny algae that give it its color and its food. It's a desperate act of survival, a last-ditch effort.
All right, here's a number I want you to really lock into your brain, 25%. I know it might seem kind of abstract, but trust me, what it represents is anything but.
Because that's how much of all known marine life depends on coral reefs for survival. A full quarter. I mean, just let that sink in. These reefs, they're the nurseries for countless fish species. They're the hunting grounds for predators. They're the absolute foundation of a food web that stretches way beyond the reef itself. So when those reefs die, that foundation just collapses. And the shockwaves from that, they're felt through the entire ocean.
But it's not just about the heat. The very same CO2 that's trapping all that warmth also dissolves into the ocean. And when it does, it changes the ocean's fundamental chemistry. This is what we call ocean acidification. And it's basically like osteoporosis for the sea. It makes it incredibly hard for all these crucial little organisms at the bottom of the food web, mollusks, corals, to build their protective shells and skeletons.
So, you put all these factors together and what do you get? A massive threat to biodiversity. You've got habitats changing, species that are literally forced to move or just die out, food webs collapsing. And this, of course, has a direct, real-world impact on the commercial fisheries that billions of people actually rely on for food and jobs.
Now, this whole biological crisis, it's just one piece of the puzzle. The reason this unraveling of life is even happening is because the ocean itself is being physically transformed. And that's creating a chain reaction with consequences that affect every single one of us, no matter how far from the coast you live.
Okay, so when we talk about sea level rise, it's really driven by two key things. First, it's just simple physics. As water gets warmer, it physically expands. It takes up more space. We call that thermal expansion. And second, and this is the one you see in the news, we've got massive amounts of new water just pouring into the system from melting glaciers and ice sheets.
Ocean currents are kind of like the planet's circulatory system, right? They move heat around and regulate our climate. But when the oceans warm up, it can slow down or even alter these currents. And the impact of that? Really chaotic, unpredictable shifts in weather patterns. We're talking more intense, more frequent extreme weather events all over the globe.
And the poles? They are absolute ground zero for all this warming. The Arctic and the Antarctic are heating up way faster than the rest of the planet, and that has some enormous global consequences.
And here's why that's so incredibly dangerous. You know how ice is bright white? Well, it reflects sunlight back into space. It's called the albedo effect. But when that ice melts, it uncovers the dark ocean or land underneath, which does the opposite. It absorbs the sun's heat. And this creates a really terrifying feedback loop. Warming causes melting, and that melting leads to, you guessed it, even more warming. So, what does all of this actually mean for us, for humanity? Let's be clear, this is not some abstract environmental problem happening out there. All of these physical and biological changes, they have a direct and often severe human cost.
The impacts on our societies are just profound. I mean, we're talking about real threats to our food security as fish stocks decline. We're talking about losing our natural storm barriers like mangroves and marshes. It all adds up to massive economic and social disruption across so many different industries.
And this quote from the research really makes the threat crystal clear. It's not just about numbers. It's about homes being flooded, roads and bridges being destroyed, and entire communities, entire populations being displaced.
This is a tangible human crisis happening right now.
Just think about it for a second. The fisherman who can't find his catch anymore. The hotel owner whose beautiful coastal resort now overlooks a dead white reef. The tour guide who has nothing left to show people. We're talking about millions and millions of livelihoods that are directly in the path of this crisis.
All right, as we wrap this up, there's one last really crucial idea I want to leave you with. It's so easy to look at all these things as separate issues, but they're absolutely not.
You know, coral bleaching over here, sea level rise over there, economic disruption, these aren't just individual problems that we can tick off a list one by one.
No, they're all symptoms of one single, deeply interconnected crisis. Every single problem is a link in a chain, and each link just makes the next one stronger. Remember those feedback loops we talked about? They're everywhere in this system.
And that leads us to the final and maybe the most important question. If this really is one interconnected system, this giant chain reaction of cause and effect, then where's the best place to intervene? Where's the most effective place to break the chain, to stop the whole thing? That's the question we all need to start thinking about.